Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girija. My name is Girija Patel. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I am a podcaster, I am an educator, I am a businesswoman, I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girija, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girija and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat. Do you use TikTok or video or any other type of these tools for your business? And have you gone to a photographer who can do all of that and then some? My amazing guest today, Natasha Coyle, is not only a brilliant photographer outside of the beautiful South Carolina, Charleston area, but she's also a TikTok guru. We were just talking, and I actually legitimately thought she was teaching TikTok courses as well because she's that awesome. She is super popular on TikTok, super popular on YouTube, and I just love how she has integrated video into her business and now really just preaches about that. And it's really working for her. She's teaching others how to do it as well, alongside her amazing photography business. So welcome to Law Chat, Natasha. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Girija. It's so good to be here.
I know. So we officially met over the summer, again, at a conference that I just recorded somebody else yesterday. And we also met at the conference at Creative at Heart. And it's just so wonderful because so many brilliant minds were there, women entrepreneurs, people really crushing whatever they're doing in their industry, but then also, paving a new path, diversifying how they're doing things. And, I just love, I was sitting in one of your classes about TikTok also, and, YouTube. And the one thing my takeaway was, okay, send messages on video. And I've been like a crazy person sending messages on videos, even to friends.
No. I add such a humanness to messaging that I think that once you get over that, like it feels weird, it's honestly so much easier and it's so much more efficient and it impacts people when they get a message from you. I love sending video messages. I kind of scare some people sometimes when I send them because they're not expecting it from me. But yeah, I'm so glad you're doing that now.
Yeah. And I think you're so right, because right now in our technology world, in the world of text messaging, in the world of emails, we have forgotten that human connection that we have, that contact. And I was just listening to something on Mind Valley. I don't know if you know about Mind Valley, it's pretty amazing. But anyway, so there was this thing that this guy was talking about, and he was just basically like, the young generation right now reverts to social media to get immediate satisfaction. It's not long-term game, but it's a short-term game because of the lack of connection. But I love that there are parts and elements of social media, such as video, that allows you to keep that connection a lot deeper than just a voice note or a text message. And did you now always employ video in your business, or has that been something that's been an evolution?
It's definitely been an evolution. I mean, I tell my husband all the time, I feel blessed that I started a business at 34 years old, and that I grew up in a time when I didn't have social media. I'm 38 now, going on 39. And I graduated college before social media was even introduced. So I understand how to have those connections, but I think that the younger generation has lost that. And even more so when I go to a store and I like seek out the aisles that are not self-checkout, because I still want to have that connection. And I feel like if you're not having that connection with people on a day-to-day basis, you kind of lose the ability to actually impact people through the connection. So for me, when I started my business, I always knew that I wanted it to be deep rooted in relationships with my couples as a wedding photographer. And I started it in 2017 at 34 years old, a stay-at-home mom. I knew nothing about photography, nothing about business. And I knew that if I was going to be leaving my husband and my son on a Saturday to go to a wedding, it needed to be something that was rooted in a relationship with a couple. So I figured, how am I going to market that? How am I going to figure this out? So I started marketing on Instagram and Facebook, and I knew that I wanted to create a marketing strategy that was a personal brand. I wanted people to get to know me. I wanted them to feel like they had a friend walking in on their wedding day. So I really started utilizing stories from the start of my business in 2017 on Instagram, which when that was introduced, a lot of people were very resistant to that because it was Snapchat. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Instagram and Facebook just kind of like look at what other people are doing, like TikTok, and I don't want to say rip it off, but I mean, that's kind of what they do. They just take it and make it better just because they have the ability to do that. And so I started utilizing stories and just showing the behind the scenes of what was going on in my world and showing my husband a little bit, my son, not a lie, still put boundaries on my business and what I share, even though from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't look like I do, but I have a lot of boundaries around what I share. I don't share my husband and son too much. When we are on vacation, I share after the fact. When we do go out to dinner, I share after the fact because I do want to protect, our privacy. So when I joined TikTok in 2020, at almost 37 years old, I didn't tell anybody for weeks, if not months. I mean, I was old. You join TikTok and it's like, okay, like, what is this? So there's teenagers dancing, they have 1 million followers. I didn't understand it. But what I realized very quickly is that there was a void in the app, a need for photographers like myself that could show up and market their business. And I, at that point, beginning of 2020, was kind of over Instagram. I felt like I wasn't being seen by anybody, being heard by anybody. I hit a wall on Instagram. So when I started TikTok in February 2020, I didn't tell anybody. And I saw the most growth that I've ever seen on social media in that year. So the first 3 weeks, I gained 10,000 followers. The first 2 months, I gained 25,000. Now I'm at almost 80,000 on TikTok. And then Reels was released in August. And I said, I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did on TikTok, and I'm going to bring it over to Instagram Reels. And that's what I did. And I saw massive growth again on Instagram. So I do think that there's something to be said for video. And I know that Instagram over the summer told us that, they're not just a photo sharing app, that they are going to be implementing more video. And I think it's a great way to dip your toes into video without starting a YouTube channel, without doing something massive production value wise, is to do short form video like Reels and TikTok.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think I mean, I've heard this before at the conference when you shared about yourself, and it still amazes me where you're like, I just got on TikTok and I just started, I'm like, I get on TikTok and I'm like, this is so overwhelming for me. And I like it Reels is so overwhelming for me too. Even though I know I should be doing it just for my business, I know that I'll be more exposure just because of the algorithms and whatever. But it is tough. It's a tough act to follow, especially when there's other people that are doing it really well. And then you're just
I think that with me, with TikTok, a part of the blessing of it was that there was not other photographers doing it yet. So I didn't really have the blueprint or the feeling of, well, I'm not going to be able to do it as good as them because they weren't doing it. So I kind of had a little bit more grace in that sense that I just kind of got to do it the way that I wanted to. Plus I didn't tell anybody. I went viral. I had a sound go viral in March or April of last year. And some friends on Instagram found it and started sharing it on their stories. And I'm like, can you please take that down? I don't want people knowing I'm on TikTok. Oh my gosh, what are people going to think? But what I realized is I needed to embrace it. And my education side of my business was born, and me being able to help others show up through video was born because I stepped out and tried something new.
Okay, so first of all, you're like, I don't want anyone to know me, but meanwhile, you have 80,000 followers.
It's so weird. And honestly, what's so funny, Caitlin James, obviously, because she was at the conference too. I love her, know her. She is somebody I bought education from as a photographer. In the beginning of 2019, she was in Disney World, and this is pre-COVID. So it was packed. It was the second day in January, and it was the busiest day I've ever seen in the animal kingdom. And I saw on Instagram that Caitlin James was in Animal Kingdom, and I hadn't met her at this point. And I like hold her on a pedestal like most people do. So I go on this hunt for hours. I actually share it on my stories, almost like a where in the world is KJ? And people were sending me tips like, oh, she was over by the safari, or she was over by this ride. And we finally found them, and I met them, and I talked to her and Michael. And they were so sweet. They sat and talked with us for about 15 minutes, took a picture. A year and a half later, I'm in Animal Kingdom, and someone who follows me from Kansas on TikTok finds me in Animal Kingdom. I'm like, this is the most full circle, crazy moment that's ever happened. And then 6 months later, we're kind of crazy. We go to Disney World all the time. We have annual passes. We were at Disney World again and again in Animal Kingdom. Another girl from Ohio who followed me found me in Animal Kingdom. And I'm like, this is insane. And like, I don't understand it. And it's hard for me to grasp sometimes when people do find me and they're like, oh my gosh, I follow you. That there's that many people who watch my TikToks. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But more than that is the impact that you're making through your videos, is the impact that they're walking away with. And that's what makes them gravitate back to you and want to find you. And now I know why you also don't tell people where you are during your vacation. But before we talk about like, get deeper into this whole TikTok conversation, when you started your business back, when was it, in 2017?
So I bought my camera in November of 2016 on Black Friday on a whim. And we went to Best Buy. I spent $350. And in my mind, I was like, my husband was working in corporate business and as an engineer in upstate South Carolina. And in my mind, I was like, I just need to make enough money to pay back this $350 because I was a stay-at-home mom. And I didn't want to start a business that was going to be taking away from our family savings. So that's how it all started. And it's kind of grown from there.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced when you first started? Because you were saying that you never picked up a camera, and you were not even, I mean, if I was to pick up a camera today, it's like, wow, that would be a lot of work on my end because I don't know anything either aside from the iPhone. But so what were some of the challenges that you faced at that time, and how did you overcome them? I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now back to our awesome conversation.
Yeah. So I think that more so than anything, I was very lucky in the sense that I wasn't having to give up a career. Obviously, I was a stay-at-home mom, and that was a big deal. But my son was going to Mommy Morning Out program. So I had 15 hours a week, and I'm like, I have 15 hours a week. What am I going to do with it? I can start a business, and I started a photography business. And more than anything for me was figuring out how to get my name out there and getting over that imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough. If I got out of my own way, then I could grow it. And that's exactly what I did. And I started believing that I could have this as a business, I could have this as a successful business, and I could grow it. So when we moved back to Charleston a year and a half later, after I started a business, we were living in Greenville, South Carolina, which is 3 hours from here, and Charleston is home. I said, I want to start weddings. I was doing family photography in the upstate. I was doing senior photography. I was doing a little bit of everything just to get my feet wet. And we moved back to Charleston, and I said, I wanted to shoot weddings. And I started booking weddings because I was just putting it out there. So more than anything, I just had to get out my own way and give myself grace to just kind of learn as I go. And 4 years later, I'm a fully booked wedding photographer in Charleston.
I know, you are super booked. You just had 2 weddings this past weekend.
I did.
So how did you, like at least at that time, because I know that imposter syndrome creeps up ever so often, and it creeps up in different ways. But at that time, I feel like whenever you're first starting something, whether you've been in business for a while, but whenever it's something new, the imposter syndrome really is very loud. And so how did you at that time say, quiet, I'm going to move forward? What did you do in order for yourself to move forward?
Yeah. One thing I did was I continuously invested in myself. I always try to learn something new. And then I also put on blinders and understood that other people's successes were not my failures. And that if I saw something on Instagram and it made me feel a certain way, that was a me thing and not a them thing. And so I started putting all the energy into myself and saying, well, if they can do that, I can do that. If they can book 22 weddings a year and make 6 figures, I can do that as well. So I just need to start focusing all my energy into growing that. So definitely kind of staying in my lane and also just doing what I wanted to do and not looking at somebody else and saying, I want to do it exactly the way you want to do it. I had to learn, especially at my age, how to stand out on my own.
You're so young. I'm like, you're so young. We're not old.
I know, but I did feel, and I feel like that's the reason that a lot of moms and people in their 30s and 40s gravitate towards me, is because I did feel like I started later in life in this industry than a lot of people. And so I felt like I had to overcome that hurdle and connect with brides that are in their 20s and early 30s when I'm a little bit older than them. So there's things that we may not have the same life experiences on, we may not have the same lifestyle about, but I had to figure out the key things that I needed to share to be able to connect with them so that I could still continue to book my ideal clients.
I think something that you said is really important is the fact that, first of all, you put blinders on. That's so important. It's like, you need to play your game. You can't play somebody else's game because you're just not going to do good at it. No. And blinders is really important. Another thing that you said was kind of staying in your lane, which kind of goes along with putting the blinders on, but also other people's success is not your failures. And so a lot of times we look at the things that people are doing, but we have not seen the story behind it. Yeah. And another thing that really is pronounced to me is that you keep talking about age. And I just think, like, first of all, you're not old at all. Right?
Thank you.
Second of all, I think what happens a lot of times is that when women, I'm a professional. I went to law school. I did all that great stuff. But then, like, when I had my children, I took time off, and I wanted to, because I wanted to invest time in my kids. I wanted the first to be with me and not with somebody else that I've hired and who won't take it as beautifully as I'm taking it, right? Like, the value is so much different to me. And so I took time off. I took 5 years off, which is a whole lot of time in a professional world. But your story, my story, and other people's story that is similar to ours tells other women that you can do it. You can take time off. It's okay. We should normalize time off also. And you can really pick yourself back up, start a business, and crush it. And keep crushing it. And that's what you're doing.
It's never too late. Yeah, exactly. And I'm so blessed that I got to stay home with our son Jackson until he was 5. And once he started going to school and I had those 15 hours, I was like, oh, what am I going to do with myself now? Like, because you do kind of lose yourself a little bit and trying to figure out what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And so starting photography was just kind of, it was my catapult into business. And thankfully it was a good one. It was a good jump. But yeah, it's definitely never too late to start anything that you want to try, especially if you feel passionately about it, go for it.
Absolutely. It's never too late. You're never too old. People in their 70s have started businesses. I mean, it's just never, when it's your time, that's the time to do it. Exactly. But also, like, you started with just doing small things, right? Like investing that time in yourself, and because you lose yourself, like as a mom, sometimes when you are putting literally 110% into everybody else but yourself, you've lost a part of you in the process. And so I would also encourage anybody listening right now that if you are in that shoe, whether you're a mom, a father, any other type of guardian, that it's okay to start taking baby steps and investing in yourself. And that could be just taking a small course to indulge yourself in something that you've always liked or something that's of your interest, and then allow yourself space to also grow in it.
Absolutely. I think that people forget that the success story didn't start off that way. Nobody's an overnight success. You just always got to move that needle forward just a little bit. And so definitely that's one thing I did, especially in the first year. I always invested in myself. As soon as I had a course, I'd take another one, and always kept moving that needle forward to my end goal.
Yeah, I agree. Investment in yourself could be anything. It could be getting on courses, purchasing a course from somewhere, going into mastermind groups, getting into networking groups. It could also just be reading a book that you know will help you grow. They can be small in value, it can be big in value, but the priceless value that you're getting from it is the growth factor and the belief that you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually read, before I started TikTok, a book by Pat Flynn called Superfans, and it really helped me understand marketing to my people. And I do think that that helped me with TikTok and helped me to show up and be dynamic and really bring people in and have them honestly like just fall in love with you and become actual super fans, not necessarily followers.
Yeah, I'm like, I have this like, long list of books to read, and I think I've heard of Superfans before, and I
Mhm.
think I'm going to add that to my list now too.
I left Creative at Heart with so many books on my list, and I'm
Oh,
like, I have so many on my Amazon cart, and like I just need to like start getting some and
yeah,
start reading them. But I'm just so busy with everything.
I
Like I don't have time.
know.
I don't
You
have
know,
time.
I've talked to some other, other guests that were on Law Chat, and then also I have read about this, but it's like you have to carve out time in your schedule for reading, and not before you
Yes.
sleep. That's not the
Mhm.
time. The time is like when you are far more productive than the sleeping hours, and
Mm.
sleeping hours can be just, happy fiction, whatever, but super relaxing. But things that are for growth, things that are geared
Mhm.
towards moving the needle should be read during working like hours of productivity. And so I still have to actually put that into my schedule, but I'm thinking like I'm always thinking about it. I'm like, I need to do this because it
Mhm.
can get a lot. There's a lot going on. Every day is
Yeah.
different. You think it's the same, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's like
It's
totally
true.
different. So
It's
let's
so
talk a
true.
little bit about TikTok and videos. I know you are one of like you're the leader in this area, like I feel. And then also you are such a champion of it too, in the sense you're just like you have to get on video. And I think more than anything now, especially when Instagram is like, hey, we're a video place now, we're not pictures anymore. We're like, really? You were pictures like 5 minutes
Mhm.
ago.
Right.
So tell me, what are some tangible, easy steps to start if you are just beginning in TikTok?
Yeah, so TikTok or Reels, because I don't think that if you don't want to get on TikTok, because I know a lot of people are resistant to it. If you don't want to get on TikTok, you don't have to. I do think it's an amazing place to grow. And I got on TikTok before Reels because Reels wasn't even invented yet. So that's why like I am such like a champion for TikTok, is because that's the reason that I am where I'm at now, a year and a half later. But I do think that watching a ton of TikTok and Reels is going to help you understand short form video. Definitely scroll through and watch them. Understand that the way that one person shows up on Instagram or on TikTok is not necessarily how you should show up. My videos are not overly produced. They are usually done in my office or in our bedroom in front of a window. There's nothing like overly done with them, and they do extremely well. I'm also a photographer. I share a lot of behind the scenes of what I do. So I just bring my husband with me or my second shooter on a wedding day to have some behind the scenes footage and just kind of tie those together with some images and create TikTok and Reels to share value. So for me, I want to share value. I want to entertain my audience. I want to empower my audience. I do share my story a lot because I feel like the more people hear it, the more they understand that they could do the same thing as me. I like, it's not because I'm special. Anybody can do exactly what I've done. And I think that it's just believing in yourself and that, you can actually do it and giving yourself grace to do it.
Love that. And I feel like, a lot of times it's that hesitancy to start. And a lot of times people are like, well, we're not dancers. We're not doing that. So what are some other options out there aside from doing the dances or the acting even? I can't do the
Mm-hmm.
acting
I hear you.
so what
Yeah.
are some other ways?
I think we are voyeurs at heart. We love watching reality TV and we love watching behind the scenes of people doing stuff. I love watching like when people make cakes or when somebody's drawing something to get to the end product. People want to see the journey of something. So if you are a business owner sharing some of that behind the scenes, I do think that we should show up in video, just like we've been told for years on Instagram that, people buy from people. We should show our face every once in a while on Instagram. I do think we should show our face a little bit on video as well. It doesn't have to be every single video, but definitely showing behind the scenes, sharing tons of value. I think that people are turning more towards TikTok and Reels to learn something quickly than they are to YouTube
Mm,
because we are busy. But people are spending 55 minutes a day watching video content. So
mhm.
definitely tapping into that.
Wow. 55
And
minutes a day. I can
55
see
minutes a
that.
day.
I can see
Yeah.
that. Okay.
I mean, I'm guilty. I'm
guilty of
guilty
it
of it.
too.
And that video content, that's not TV, obviously, but that's YouTube, but that's TikTok, that's Reels, that's IGTV, that's lives. That is, it goes across a lot of different things. Watching a webinar, we spend a lot of time watching videos throughout the day. So definitely making sure that you're getting your brand and your face in front of your market through videos so that you can grow again. So definitely showing behind the scenes, like I said, sharing tons of value. I like to entertain, and that's kind of how I got started on TikTok. So I share a lot of that on Reels as well, but I mix it up and I try to entertain and educate at the same time. So I will entertain through the video and then add tons of education in my post. And then I also, like I said, like to share my story.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your reels, and you definitely can act, and you definitely can do some of the dancing that's out there as well. But obviously, if you go onto your YouTube, there's a lot of education sitting there from you as well. And so that's all very, very impressive. And I've actually noticed myself lately more so than ever, I don't actually look at people's feeds. I don't do that. I literally am scrolling through stories. And sometimes, like, as you're scrolling through the feed, you'll get like reels, like, oh, look at these reels. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I see what you're doing, Instagram.
Oh, suggested reels. Yeah. They're prioritizing it.
Even
And I think
Facebook does
that,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Even
well, Facebook has released their own version of reels now.
yeah.
I'm not doing, I mean, I pushed them over there and I allow it to be pushed over there, but I'm not huge on Facebook. It's funny. People know me as a social media person in education, but I actually don't love social media. Like I said, I didn't grow up with it. I went all the way through college without it. And I do think that there's really good things that comes out of social media, especially for business, especially as an entrepreneur, because of those connections. And for marketing is a free way to market, but there's a lot of negativity that comes from it. So I don't love it. So I try not to overextend myself and have Facebook and TikTok and Pinterest and Instagram. I do have Facebook and I have Facebook groups, but I definitely focus a lot of my energy on Instagram and TikTok.
Right. But that's where, you just have to kind of see where your audience is really sitting and engaging. If your audience is sitting and engaging on Facebook, go for that. If it's Instagram or, TikTok or whatever, then go for that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely need to get more. Like, my team is always like, hey, you need to put more videos out. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much more can I create?
I know. It's never ending. Content creation is never ending. I do think that a lot of people ask me, like, Natasha, how many times should I post on Instagram? And I'm like, it differs for each person. And I do think that it's more about consistency than it is about the amount. The capacity isn't necessarily going to move the needle forward. If you can be consistent and share value consistently once a week, once a month, whatever that looks like for your business, then that's going to get you way further than just pumping out a bunch of content that doesn't share value.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what about all these like hashtags and SEO stuff? And, like, I know that on YouTube, you can do the SEO thing. What about with Reels and TikTok and all?
Yeah. I think that I have my own understanding of it and my own opinion of it. And I think that none of us know 100% because Instagram is probably changing right now as we're speaking. So people are saying, oh, don't put hashtags or only use 5. I do think that you should utilize hashtags because I personally use hashtags to search for things. So when I am looking for something specific, as long as the hashtag is relevant to your reel, I do think that it'll help it get further. And I do the same thing on TikTok. Now, I only do very relevant hashtags and I try and mix them up as much as possible to try and beat the algorithm, that scary word. But I don't think that as long as you're seeing growth, whatever you're doing is working, stick to that. And definitely continue to look at your insights and understanding your insights and measuring those and making sure that return on your investment is coming back from people actually seeing your content.
I agree. I actually use, I think they allow 10 hashtags on the story. I'll use all 10. What I noticed recently is that because of Diwali and all, so I started using a little bit more like different hashtags that I normally rotate through. And I saw like more exposure because I saw more followers all of a sudden. I'm like, this is very
It
interesting.
does work. Yeah.
And it does, because clearly like you don't show up in front of those spaces unless there is something that's triggering that. And
Yeah.
so it was really interesting to see that. And it made me think like, okay, I really need to be far more intentional about my hashtags and just kind of throwing stuff together and like putting it out there. And
Yeah, Instagram's definitely is moved towards a search engine. People are
yeah,
searching for things on Instagram, which is why they allow you to use alt text and things like that on images, is because they understand that it's becoming a more of a search engine than it was before, and people are going on there to find new people and to find new businesses. So definitely utilizing the right ones to get in front of those ideal audiences is key.
yeah, absolutely. And then I also, in my notes, like on my phone, I just have a
Mhm.
whole list of like hashtags and like
Yeah.
grouped it out. So that was easy to copy paste. You're not
Mhm.
like stressing about creating new hashtags all of a sudden every single time.
Exactly, exactly. I do the same thing. I use Planoly a lot, so I have like hashtags lists saved through there, and then I mix them up a little bit depending on,
Yeah.
especially on the reels. And a lot of times I'll add hashtags that are relevant to the sound, because people will remember parts of a sound and be like, I need to do a reel that is that sound, and they will
Oh,
go. I did one with my husband, and it was a funny one. I like to have him, and every once in a while, people love seeing him on my reels. But it's me like buying stuff. And it's a sound saying we over and over again. And so I literally went hashtag WEE to find the sound to make it easier, because I knew which sound I wanted to utilize. I just didn't save it when I should have. And so I
that's
went and
smart.
searched.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
So,
smart.
and thankfully somebody had utilized that hashtag with the sound, with the video, so that I could easily find it and then create the reel.
That's so smart. I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, you're right. People search for sounds and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So that is
Yeah.
that is so true. Now, I know like before Reels came out, people would like, do stuff on TikTok and then
Mm-hmm.
transfer it over to Instagram and post it
Mm-hmm.
there. Is that still a thing, or is that not a thing anymore?
It is. I only film, if I'm filming in app, I only film in one or the other. So I only film in Instagram, but then I will share it to TikTok, or I only film in TikTok and bring it to Reels. I will say it's easier to film in TikTok. The um, Reels editing and all that stuff is a little clunky still. They haven't worked out all the kinks. TikTok is way easier to film in, way easier to edit in. So I do film over there, and then I will save the video to my phone and bring it over to Reels, so that I can hit both of those without creating two different videos for each.
I love that. Okay, good tips, good tips. Do you have any other TikTok tips for people who are not just beginners, but who are still maybe a little hesitant in joining the bandwagon?
Yeah. So for me, I definitely think that with TikTok, you have to figure out kind of what your niche is going to be, and then start creating a bunch of different types of videos to see what's going to take off. I like to utilize the comments, because you can reply to a comment with a video. I like to use the comments on TikTok videos to create new videos. And what it does is it drives people down almost like a rabbit hole of videos. And once one takes off, if you've been consistent in showing up, especially if your business is sharing value, if one takes off and you have value beneath it in tons of videos, what are people going to do? They're going to go binge watch their videos. It becomes almost like Netflix, and they're able to go through and see all the different things. So on Reels, it's a little different. It's very similar to TikTok, but there's a little different of a marketing strategy on Instagram. So I love them both. I just treat them both differently.
Wow, that I didn't even think about that. That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Law Chat, and so I
Mm-hmm.
always kind of forget about the whole legal aspect of everything.
Yeah.
I just get so involved in, whatever my guest is
Yeah.
sharing and their
Yeah.
story. But has there ever been a time in your career where you have used law and you're like, thank God I used it, or you're just
Mm.
like, gosh, I really wish I had that in place?
Yeah, I think that swapping back to the wedding side of my business, I think that obviously you should have a contract. If you ever shoot something without a contract, you'll probably regret it immediately, because that's usually when something's going to go wrong. So definitely having a contract. And every single time I'm at a wedding, I feel like something new comes up. I'm like, that needs to be in a contract. That needs to be in a contract. I at one time, and this was 2 years ago, I gift an engagement session to my couples, and I did not have language in the contract that stated that if they do not utilize the complimentary engagement session for their wedding day, it's void. And they kept rescheduling. Their wedding day comes, and they wanted to utilize the engagement session after their wedding day. And I was like, I don't have anything in my contract for it. So I can't say no, but
Mm.
definitely made me go back and say, I need some sort of language in my contract for this engagement session that is complimentary, that if they don't utilize it by the date and having like parameters around it, that it will be void. So
Yeah.
I think that as a business is continually learning new things, definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's so smart, because even with my clients, or even if I'm just out there educating and, sharing information about the law, I'm always
Mhm.
talking about, what are the pain points? What are the areas that you're just been like, oh, that really sucked and I just need to fix that? Or,
Mhm.
like kind of like have a running list throughout the year, so
Mhm.
that when you do visit those contracts again, you can fix it. You can hopefully mitigate it, if not completely eliminate those issues later on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. So I know we talked about a book earlier, and
Mhm.
I always like to end our conversations with, what is your favorite book? What is, something that you really enjoy reading?
Yeah. So Pat Flynn, obviously, Superfans is amazing. I also like StoryBrand. Who is that guy? I can't remember his name right now. David, something D maybe. But it's called StoryBrand and is about marketing. And I love reading anything about marketing and how to really, because I'm scaling my business, how to actually scale business through marketing and have people become so invested in you that no matter what you put out, no matter what you're selling, they're going to want to buy it from you because they like, know, and trust you.
Yes, I know. I've had a few guests in the past who are story brand experts, that they've done
Yeah.
the whole the licensing and everything like that. So they're definitely like making the client the hero of your story, and the
Absolutely.
person that's going to be benefiting really helps them also understand what you're providing, what you're doing.
Right. Right. It's Donald Miller. I just remember D.
Donald Miller, yeah.
Donald Miller.
I was
So yeah,
also like in my mind, I'm like,
like
Donald.
it's hard to remember all these names. But yeah, no, I think that I mean, obviously, like I've learned that through a lot of people. And I've read both books, and I've read them both multiple times, because I take something from it every single time that I read it. And I also did over the summer with Kat Schmoyer. I was in her mastermind in Solium. We did Gallup's Street Finders, which
Yes,
I
favorite.
loved and I had never heard of. And so I do think
Yeah.
that that's an amazing, it's not necessarily a book, but it's an amazing tool to utilize, and kind of figure out what your strengths are, especially as a business owner.
Strength Finders is amazing.
Mhm.
I cannot talk enough about it. I feel like I've heard of it before. A lot of you might have heard of it. You might think, oh, it's in a corporate setting, so you don't need to do it. But really, you need to do it. Everybody, whether you own a business or whether you're in a corporate setting, if you're a team leader, even in your corporation or wherever you're working, or even if you're a business owner, you need to do it for your team, because you really understand the way your team functions, and you
Absolutely.
understand the strengths of yourself and how they're translating your strengths, and how they're translating the impatience that might be coming out of you also.
It's
It
so
was
eye-opening,
eye-opening for me. It was
right?
so
I was like, wait,
eye-opening for me.
I'm that. I didn't know that. But it makes sense. And when I look at both of my businesses, my number one is relator, which means that is everything that I do within my business is very deep rooted with relationships. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. That I mean, that's the reason that I run both of my businesses the way that I do.
Yeah.
So it's very eye-opening. If you've never taken it, definitely take Street Fighters.
Yeah, it's like something you can do online, and then the book, you can even purchase the book, and then you'll get the access to the test through the book as well as Strength Finder. So
Mm-hmm.
fantastic, so fantastic, all of it. Thank you so much for being with us today and
Oh,
sharing
thank
all
you.
of your wisdom and your wonderful story, and just the encouragement that you bring with it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Girija.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girija. If this was helpful to you, or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.